They say it takes years to build good soil. But what if you could let nature do the work for you? Slowly and quietly, without sweat or strain. That's the magic of cold composting, a forgotten, old-fashioned method that creates humus so rich it can transform any garden. No piles of steaming compost, no constant turning, no aching back. Just patience, kitchen scraps, and the steady rhythm of time. This isn't just about gardening. It's about wisdom, learning to trust the earth's gentle pace. And once you see what this method does for your soil, you'll never look at waste the same way again. For many gardeners, especially those of us with aching knees or tired backs, the idea of hot composting feels overwhelming. It sounds good in theory. Pile up your scraps, turn them every few days, keep the moisture just right, and wait for the magic to happen. But in reality, it can feel like running a full-time job just to get a bit of compost. And let's be honest, who has the time or energy to wrestle with heavy forks, steaming piles, and constant monitoring? Gardening is supposed to be peaceful, not exhausting. That's where cold composting quietly shines. Unlike the high-maintenance hot method, cold composting doesn't ask much of you. You don't have to turn it every week. You don't need a thermometer, and you don't need to water it constantly. Instead, you simply gather your kitchen scraps, garden clippings, and yard waste. Pile them together, and let time do the work. Slowly, steadily, the pile breaks down on its own, creating humus, that dark, crumbly, sweet-smelling soil that gardeners call black gold. What makes cold composting so powerful isn't speed, but sustainability. It fits the rhythm of real life. For older gardeners, or anyone who wants to work smarter instead of harder, this method feels like a gift. It honors patience. It proves that even if things take longer, the results are deeper and richer. Think of it as crockpot composting. You set it up, let it sit, and when the time is right, you uncover something nourishing and beautiful. And here's the best part. It's nearly foolproof. Forget worrying about the perfect ratio of greens and browns. Forget fancy bins or endless chores. Cold composting is forgiving. Toss in your fruit peels, vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, shredded leaves, or grass clippings, and simply let them rest. Over months or a year, earthworms, fungi, and billions of unseen microbes quietly get to work. While you live your life, nature transforms waste into wealth. This method isn't just easier on your body, it's easier on your spirit. There's something deeply comforting about knowing that the things we once threw away, orange peels, wilted lettuce, last season's leaves, are not trash at all, but food for the future. Cold composting teaches us patience, faith, and appreciation for slow processes. It reminds us that the best things in life don't have to be rushed. So if hot composting has ever felt like a chore you couldn't keep up with, don't give up on compost altogether. Cold composting may just be your perfect match, gentle, reliable, and endlessly rewarding. The garden doesn't demand youth or energy from us. It rewards consistency, patience, and care, qualities we all can offer, no matter our age. How cold composting works. Instead of cooking your scraps at high temperatures, cold composting lets nature take its time. Think of it as the slow simmer of soil making. Instead of rushing with heat, you're trusting in the quiet, steady work of life beneath the surface. Microbes, fungi, earthworms, and even tiny insects all become your garden helpers, working day and night to transform yesterday's waste into tomorrow's nourishment. Here's how it happens. You start with what you already have: fruit and vegetable scraps from the kitchen, coffee grounds, eggshells, grass clippings, dried leaves, even shredded paper. These are the building blocks. Pile them in a corner of your yard, in a bin, or even in a simple pit in the ground. Then, leave them alone. That's the beauty. No daily stirring, no back-breaking shoveling. Just patience. Over time, the pile becomes a little ecosystem. First, fungi and bacteria break down the softer materials. Then worms and beetles move in, chewing and tunneling, mixing everything together. Bit by bit, what was once peelings and yard clippings turns into dark, crumbly soil filled with humus. It doesn't happen overnight. It may take several months or even a year. But when you finally dig into that pile, you'll find black, sweet-smelling compost that looks and feels like chocolate cake crumbs. Cold composting works because it mimics nature's own way of recycling. In a forest, no one turns the leaves or sprinkles water on them to keep them. Cooking. They simply fall, layer after layer, and the soil community breaks them down in its own time. That's exactly what you're doing in your garden, partnering with nature, instead of trying to speed her up. And here's the secret many people don't realize. Cold compost is often richer in microbial life than hot compost. Because the process happens slowly and gently, many of the beneficial bacteria, fungi, and tiny critters survive and thrive. This living soil inoculates your garden with the kind of fertility that lasts for years. It's not just fertilizer, it's a whole ecosystem in your hands. For older gardeners, or anyone with limited time, cold composting is not just easier, it's wiser. You're letting nature do what she's always done, and the results speak for themselves. Healthier soil, better harvests, and a garden that practically feeds itself. If you want to get started, don't overthink it. Pick a spot. Start tossing in your scraps and clippings. Cover it with a layer of dried leaves, soil, or cardboard to keep pests away and give it a tidy look. Then forget about it for a season. Trust that slow magic is happening under the surface. Because cold composting isn't about rushing. It's about remembering that the best things grow with time. Just like wisdom, patience, and the lessons we pass down. Good soil comes from steady, faithful care. And in the end, that's what makes it so powerful. Step-by-step guide. Here's how to start your own cold compost pile. And remember, it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler you keep it, the better it works. Step 1. Choose a shady spot or a bin. You don't need a fancy tumbler, expensive system, or complicated structure. A corner of your yard, a simple wooden bin, or even a pile tucked behind the shed will do. The shade helps keep things from drying out too quickly and gives your compost pile a steady environment. Think of it as picking a quiet resting spot for your scraps, somewhere they can break down in peace. Step 2. Layer kitchen scraps, yard waste, and dry leaves. Start with what you already have on hand. Toss in your vegetable peels, fruit rinds, coffee grounds, or eggshells. Add in some yard clippings, pulled weeds, or grass cuttings. Then balance it with dry materials like leaves, shredded cardboard, or paper. These browns give your pile structure and prevent it from becoming slimy. You don't have to measure or stress over exact ratios. Just aim for a nice mix of wet kitchen scraps and dry yard waste. Think of it as building a lasagna for the soil. Step 3. Keep it moist, but not soggy. Your compost pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge. If it's too dry, it slows down. If it's too wet, it smells. A light sprinkle of water every so often is all you need. Or let the rain do the job. This isn't about babysitting the pile, just making sure it doesn't completely dry out. Remember, microbes and worms need a little moisture to thrive. Step 4. Cover and wait. Nature does the rest. This is the easiest step of all. Place a layer of leaves, straw, cardboard, or even a tarp on top to keep pests out and hold in moisture. Then let it sit. Over the weeks and months, worms, fungi, and microbes quietly work their magic. You don't need to stir, you don't need to measure. You don't even need to check on it every day. Just trust the process. After several months to a year, when you dig in, you'll find dark, rich humus that smells like the forest floor. That's your compost, ready to feed your garden. The beauty of this system is that it's forgiving. Forget to water it? No problem. The next rain will help. Toss in too many banana peels. Balance it with a few handfuls of leaves. There's no perfection required. Cold composting is like a faithful old friend, patient, reliable, and always giving back. And here's a fun engagement for you. What's the strangest thing you've ever added to your compost pile? Maybe it was old bread, hair from a haircut, or that box of stale crackers hiding in the pantry. Share it in the comments. Let's see who's the most creative composter here. You'll be surprised how many everyday odds and ends can turn into garden gold. Benefits for seniors. Why do so many older gardeners love cold composting? Because it speaks our language. Simple, low effort, forgiving. Unlike hot composting, there's no wrestling with heavy tools. No constant turning of steaming piles. No worrying about perfect science. With cold composting, the hardest part is waiting. And if there's one thing gardening teaches us, it's patience. For seniors, this method is a blessing in more ways than one. First, it's easy on the body. You don't need to lift, stir, or strain. Once your pile is set up, nature does all the heavy lifting. Earthworms tunnel through, microbes break things down, and fungi quietly weave their networks, all while you sip your tea on the porch. It's a gentle system that works whether you're active in the garden every day or only when energy allows. Second, it's forgiving. Life happens. Maybe you forget to add scraps for a few weeks, or the pile dries out during a hot spell. That's okay. Cold composting doesn't demand perfection. Add a few leaves, sprinkle some water, and the process continues. This makes it especially comforting for seniors who want a garden project that isn't stressful or time-sensitive. Third, it's rewarding in ways that go beyond soil. When you finally dig into that finished compost, what you're holding is not just humus, it's proof of transformation. What was once waste has become nourishment. That lesson mirrors life. The years, the challenges, even the small scraps of daily living can, with time, become something rich and meaningful. Cold composting carries that quiet wisdom, reminding us that nothing is wasted. And let's not forget the joy of contribution. Many seniors find meaning in knowing they're leaving the soil better than they found it. Cold composting is a simple, tangible way to give back to the earth, to the next generation, and even to your own garden, which becomes healthier, richer, and more alive with every handful of compost you return to it. There's also a practical benefit: saving money. Instead of buying bags of soil conditioner or chemical fertilizer, your garden feeds itself with what you already have at home. Every eggshell, every apple core, every handful of dried leaves becomes part of the cycle. It's frugal, sustainable, and deeply satisfying. But perhaps the greatest benefit is peace of mind. Cold composting doesn't ask you to rush. It doesn't require constant attention. It's a garden companion that grows quietly in the background, ready when you are. And in that way, it feels like a reflection of life itself, steady, patient, generous, and always worth the wait. So if you've ever thought composting was too much work, too complicated, or for younger folks, let cold composting change your mind. It's gardening made gentle. It's soil made simple. And it's a reminder that sometimes the best rewards come not from speed, but from the steady passing of time. The gift of humus. At the end of the process, you're left with humus, rich, living soil that looks like dark chocolate cake crumbs, smells like a forest after rain, and crumbles through your fingers with a softness only nature can create. This isn't just compost. It's more than garden fertilizer. It's humus, the very foundation of life. Humus is not quick to form. It takes months, even years, of slow, patient breakdown. But once it's there, it lasts. Unlike quick fertilizers that wash away in the next rain, humus stays in the soil, holding moisture, feeding microbes, and storing nutrients for generations of plants to come. It's like an inheritance for your garden, a gift that keeps on giving, long after the banana peel or leaf first touched the pile. For seniors especially, humus carries a deeper meaning. It's a reminder that nothing is truly wasted. The scraps, the clippings, the things we once thought were useless, they become the foundation for new life. That lesson echoes beyond the garden. Our stories, our efforts, even our struggles, with time, they can all be transformed into something nourishing, something that helps others grow. Humus is nature's way of whispering. Everything has value. Everything can bloom again. There's also the practical magic of humus. Add it to your garden beds, and you'll see soil that stays moist longer, plants that grow stronger, and vegetables that taste richer. Your flowers will bloom brighter, your herbs more fragrant. Humus doesn't just feed plants, it rebuilds the soil itself, making it healthier year after year. It's like giving your garden a solid foundation that can weather droughts, pests, and time. But beyond the science, humus is a gift of peace. It's proof that good things come from waiting, that you don't need to rush, force, or push to create something valuable. All you need is patience, trust, and a willingness to let nature do what she's been doing for thousands of years. In a world that constantly demands speed, humus reminds us that slow and steady can be far more powerful. And maybe that's why gardeners, especially those of us with a little more gray in our hair, appreciate cold composting so deeply. Because we've lived enough seasons to know that life doesn't have to be hurried to be meaningful. The gift of humus is the gift of time, transformation, and renewal. So when you hold that handful of rich, dark soil, know that you're not just looking at compost. You're holding a story of scraps reborn, of patience rewarded, and of nature's eternal cycle. It's the garden's way of saying, nothing is wasted. Everything matters, and with time, everything can bloom again. So if hot composting feels like a chore, if the idea of constant turning and monitoring has ever left you sighing and sore, here's the good news: you don't have to do it that way. Cold composting offers another path, one that is quiet, gentle, and forgiving. It doesn't just build soil, it builds patience, gratitude, and abundance. When you choose this slower method, you're not only creating humus for your garden, you're creating space for yourself, space to let go of pressure, space to trust the process, and space to rediscover the joy of gardening without the heavy lifting. In every peel, every leaf, every eggshell, there's a promise that with time, life renews itself. And isn't that the very heart of gardening? The steady hope that what we plant today will nourish tomorrow? For many of us, especially in the later seasons of life, that message resonates deeply. We've seen how patience pays off, how quiet work bears fruit, and how nothing, not even the scraps, is wasted. Cold composting is more than a garden method. It's a reflection of the wisdom we've gathered over the years. It shows us that slow isn't weak. Slow is strong, enduring, and lasting. So, if this video gave you an idea, a spark of inspiration, or maybe even just a smile, I'd love for you to pass that gift forward. Give this video a like to let us know it helped. Share it with a gardening friend who could use a little encouragement, or who's been looking for an easier way to compost. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Evergreen Seniors. Here, we believe that life, like the garden, never stops blooming. There's always more to learn, more to grow, and more joy to be found in the soil beneath our feet. Your garden is your story, and every scrap you add to your compost pile becomes a line in that story. With cold composting, you're not only growing healthier plants, you're passing on wisdom, creating abundance, and leaving behind soil that will feed life for years to come. So here's my invitation: start small. Pick a spot, toss in today's scraps, cover it, forget it, and let nature take care of the rest. Trust me, months from now, when you dig into that pile and feel rich, dark humus crumble through your fingers, you'll smile. Because you'll realize that the garden has been teaching you something all along. Nothing is wasted, everything matters, and patience always brings a harvest.